Hello, lovelies. Thank y'all for coming to the Twitch chat. I guess my very rarely used Twitch channel. Since most of the stuff I do on Twitch is with the MVG Super Show. Hi, Alex. Glad to see that you're here. Yeah. So let's not beat around the bush here. We're here to talk about LGBT in the Ring, the queer pro wrestling podcast that I host as part of the Outsports Podcast Network. And as of yesterday, is on hiatus for a short, hopefully, but indefinite amount of time right now, as we sit on January 27th, 2023. I want to get into a bit about why that decision was made and some of the factors that really led to me making that decision to put the podcast on hold for a little while. And I guess the best place to start would be last week, whenever news broke that Vox, the parent company of SB Nation, which is also is basically the site that hosts Outsports, and really was part of the reason why Outsports began podcasting back in 2019, was because we had that decree from SB Nation to start doing that, and along with all of the other various blogs underneath the SB Nation banner, covering every single sports team, almost every major sport out there, going over 330 blogs of stuff underneath that SB Nation banner. So Vox last week announced that they were laying off 7% of their work staff, roughly 130 people, so to speak. And I can inform you now, Outsports has not been affected by that to date, although a number of places at SB Nation have been hit very, very hard by that decision. I believe the glut of NHL coverage, the glut of Major League Soccer coverage, the glut of NWSL, which is the major women's soccer league here in the US, all of those blogs got hit heavily, either being shut down entirely or having Vox cut support for them or having their staffs eroded heavily. And that's kind of continued as the days have rolled along. You know, here we are on another Friday. Last Friday was when that announcement was made. A week later, we got news today that Bloody Elbow, the MMA blog, the original MMA blog, started on SB Nation. That has been cut now, and with all of the staff there being let go. Which, you know, if anybody from Bloody Elbow is in the chat or listening, shout out to all of y'all. Y'all do great coverage for MMA, a really different style of covering MMA, and they've been incredibly supportive whenever I cover MMA for Outsports, because one of the hats that I wear is covering queer athletes in MMA whenever they come up, which is mostly when Amanda Nunes fights. Shout out to Amanda Nunes, but still, it sucks. It sucks to see Bloody Elbow and so many other blogs being gutted in this stage. So I say that Outsports is safe right now in terms of, like, I still have my job there currently, but it's having my job there really pales in comparison to what's going on, and it sucks. And I don't feel I feel good that I'm secured right now, but I feel bad because how can you not feel for the other people that are being affected by this? That isn't to say that Outsports entirely isn't affected by this, though. And this is not just an Outsport thing. This is a another larger SB Nation thing. Earlier this week, I was informed by a executive with SB Nation that the Outsports podcasts would not be continuing underneath the SB Nation banner. As I understand it, this is, as I said, not just an Outsports thing. As I understand, pretty much every podcast that is produced and published under SB Nation has been affected by this same thing, effectively canceling every podcast underneath SB Nation, and causing more people to lose their jobs. There are some people at some of the larger blogs on SB Nation that were there simply to run the podcast networks. I know Niners Nation, obviously, as a 49ers fan myself. Oh, wrong side. There we go. There's the helmet. I saw there are people. Excuse me. There are people that helped run the podcast side of Niners Nation that don't have a job anymore because that stuff has been shut down. But honestly, where that factors in for Outsports, though, is yes, all of the Outsports podcasts are going to be done at the end of February. SB Nation informed me that my podcaster contract with them ends on February 28th, which that kind of coincides with everything that is going on podcast related with SB Nation ending. February 28th seems to be the date there. So effectively, LGBT In The Ring is canceled. It got canceled by SB Nation, along with a multitude of other podcasts, all due to what has been termed to me as cost-cutting measures and a downturn in the advertising market for digital media. So funnily, it's funny that we had this happen in the middle of the turn of January, where often conversations about the sustainability of digital media continue to come up in conversations. Yeah, so this puts a little bit of more reality on those conversations here. So I decided to pause the show, though, because I still could have been publishing episodes after getting that news. I actually had I had interviews lined up to do this week for the podcast going into February, and I canceled those because I have a lot of questions about what LGBT In The Ring is going to look like post SB Nation, paying for publishing, paying for excuse me, I just ate lunch and I apologize. And how the show is going to take shape, and what the past and the history of the show, what the availability of that is going to be to me. One thing when being contracted to do this work, now you see what happens whenever you listen to the podcast and my voice starts to go. I don't know. It's bad. Anyway, one of the things with the podcast contract that I've been going back through and that is kind of up in the air right now, that I'm trying to discuss with the people at SB Nation and the people at Outsports as well, to a lesser extent, but to some extent, is what happens to what we've already put out there. What happens to the first 190 episodes of this show that are out there underneath the Outsports podcast feed that all of y'all have enjoyed for over 3 years at this point? And the answer to that question is I don't know. I don't know what ownership looks like of those episodes. If I after my podcast contract with them runs out, if those episodes will be available to me to republish elsewhere, if they would not allow me to do that, not allow me to take those shows with me and effectively just segment off the first 3+ years of this podcast to a feed that is not going to be updated anymore. Like I said, I've had discussions are still ongoing. I'm just waiting for information, answers, and details on that part, and without being told explicitly that episodes published while I'm still contracted for podcast production to SB Nation would see like ownership and publishing ability fall back to me after that contract runs out. I did not feel good about continuing to publish episodes underneath the current podcast contract, I guess you could say. So that's why the hiatus was announced yesterday. That's why at least until, well, not at least, probably at most until February 28th, I would say it's not likely that there will be new episodes of the show. Like I said, I'm still trying to work out the timetable here on this for myself, because if I get information and answers from the people that I'm talking to earlier, then that might help hasten whatever I do next or what I want to do in the time remaining before my contract with them runs out, all that sort of deal. Yeah, that's all on the table. It just depends on what I learn over the course of the next few weeks. I don't know if I'm going to learn those things. I don't know if I'm going to find out anything until much later in February. I'm hoping by the end of February, but we will see what happens there. So unfortunately, at least for the next few weeks, likely until the end of February, there will be no new episodes of LGBT in the Ring. And depending on how ownership of the episodes that have been published, as well as the name and the logo of the show, like depending on how those things shake out, like this might be the end of LGBT in the Ring in this current form. I said on Twitter that this was not the end. This was just the start of changes, and I want to assure you that it definitely is not the end of what this show is, so to speak. Regardless of what happens with all of the name and logo and past library stuff that still is unanswered at this point, I want to assure you and every fan of the show that has downloaded and listened to an episode or has, reached out to me sharing their feelings about the show, or is seeing this video now or whenever it's up on VOD or wherever else I do it. I don't know. I'm kind of scatterbrained right now, if you can't tell. I've had something really frazzling fall in my lap in the last few days, and I've been trying to figure out what to do with it. But I want to assure you that the show will continue, whether it has a new name, that will be seen, whether it has new logos, artwork, whatever. The format, I do not plan on changing. I still believe in the power that this show has in terms of highlighting queer identities within the pro wrestling world and what it means to not just the people that come on the show and not just the people that listen to the show, but for the people that engage with the pro wrestling culture, that I hope this show continues to influence in a positive manner. To that end, I can't let the show go away regardless of what happens regarding SB Nation. So with that said, like, I will be taking the show independent. I just don't know the timetable for that yet. It could be March, it could be earlier, it could be later, depending on what is going on with certain situations. But whether it's called LGBT in the Ring or a different name, which I already have a pretty good idea for a different name for the show if it does have to go that route. It will continue to exist, and it'll have its own dedicated feed this time, so it'll be easier to find in your podcast things, your podcast apps and platforms and whatnot. You can just search for the show title instead of having to go to Outsports, which, I'm no shade to Outsports. I'm very thankful for the chance to be able to produce that show for as long as I have under their banner, and to have the support from people like Don Ennis and Sid Ziegler and Jim Bazinski, and all my other contributors that I work with, my co-contributors that I work with at the site, that have also produced really great stuff. Alex, Carly, Ken, it's been D. Gill. I think we had a different show for each day almost for a while there. But I feel like having a dedicated feed for the show will also do well for having people keep up with it. And I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit of a selfish thought for me, but I've just enjoyed. I've enjoyed the chance to think about having a dedicated feed for it. It just feels better to me. I will also probably be looking around at options for crowdfunding for this as well. Not like GoFundMe stuff or anything like that for equipment or anything like that, but I'll be frank, like I've toyed around with ideas for a Patreon here and there, and I don't know, I haven't really pulled the trigger on that because, one, I have a lot of self-doubt about whether or not I would be able to run that properly for myself. I feel like I doubt myself a lot. A lot of stuff here. But I really think that I just haven't had a good handle on coming up with options that would entice people to subscribe and to put a monthly amount of money down to support the show. I have ideas for sure, but I just don't know. I just don't know if they would work for what I want to do. Granted, I haven't really talked to many people about that, but the ideas are there. But it's more so, I think if the show goes independent, I would definitely be looking at starting a Patreon. Excuse me. So I will figure out what that might look like over this time period as well, and figure that out for myself. I'm always open to suggestion as well, so anybody that is a fan of the show and wants to throw out suggestions for what they would want out of an LGBT in the Ring / pending title Patreon, bonus shows, a Discord channel. I've definitely thought about doing a Discord channel. I feel like I have enough on my plate where I already don't participate much in the Discord channels that I am in with other people. And so the thought of running one feels like it might be a little bit daunting, but there are people that can help out there and that sort of thing too. I don't know if that would make people interested in supporting a Patreon for the show either. Those are discussions and decisions that we made down the line. There's still time. We have at least a month or so probably before any of that gets going. But yeah, the show isn't going away. It's just going to change. It honestly opens up a lot of different possibilities to explore with the show itself. Maintaining that interview format, but also maybe looking into. I really like the idea of doing some bonus shows here and there. I think I mentioned this on the podcast before, but Casey and I have both kind of thrown around the idea here and there for the past like year or so about potentially doing some form of a Joshi podcast, considering, you know, Casey's Japanese heritage and them not really engaging with it growing up out here on the West Coast, and using Joshi as a way to kind of open that door up a bit for them. I feel like that's a really cool idea, but I just haven't figured out what the best format for that would be. Another show that I've kind of thrown around for a number of years at this point, back to when I first started thinking about a Patreon, was, you know, having wrestlers and wrestling figures on and just not talking about wrestling. Just, you know, we've done this on the regular podcast before a few times, but I really like the idea of having someone within the wrestling world come to me with a fandom or a piece of media or a thing that they are just over the moon excited about, and that they are passionate about, and they have a knowledge of that I may not have a knowledge of, I may have a knowledge of, but just something that they're passionate about, and just we talk about that for like 30-45 minutes or something. I don't know, like it's all just kind of like popping out of the head right now, and I'm trying to figure out where exactly to place stuff and what might work and what might not work. But I also guess I'm getting a little bit into the weeds right now with stuff, but I guess we don't need to overstay or welcome here. I mean, I might be on this channel a bit more often now, you know, Twitch streams and YouTube stuff. I'm not I'm not putting them out of the picture right now. There are definitely things that are on the table. Obviously, I do Twitch streams every Monday with my good friends Slacker Kite and Lady Merowyn with the MVG Super Show, our video game stream. But I don't really do much on this channel, as evidenced by the fact that it looks like I haven't streamed anything since I did a Fire Pro tournament for charity that did not pull like hardly any viewers in back like 2, maybe even 3 years ago at this point. I don't know, it's been a while, so maybe I do more stuff on here, you know. I have all the tools for it and whatnot, you know, and if I have access to the back catalog of episodes, I'll probably put those up on YouTube, as well as wherever we are hosting the podcast going forward. Either way, all that stuff will be worked out as I get more information, have more talks with the people at SB Nation about what this all looks like. But for all of you that have listened to LGBT in the Ring for 3+ years, for 190 episodes, first off, thank you, because none of this I wouldn't even be sitting here on this channel talking about the future of this show if y'all didn't listen to it. My God, I don't normally cough this much when I talk. Anyway, but yeah, like I would be having this chat if it wasn't for all of you. And it means the world to me that y'all have stuck with this show, and that the numbers have been consistent since it started. We haven't really seen a dip in numbers. We've seen a small uptick here and there, but we've had a pretty good average per episode in terms of audience engagement and that sort of thing. And it warms my heart to see, honestly, and it helps me on days whenever I am down or have no desire to do this type of stuff, whether it be like writing or podcasting or editing audio stuff. Like, it helps to keep me motivated. It helps me keep me looking forward and moving forward, because I know that there are people who are impacted by this work, and I want to continue to do that and to continue to spread that message that we've been doing for so long. So the show is not going away. It's just going to take some time to figure out exactly what is going on. And if you don't hear anything from me before February 28th, then you'll know that we haven't figured things out until my contract with SB Nation for podcast stuff ends. I'm still at Outsports, still going to be writing for them, at least to my knowledge right now. We'll see. I'm cross fingers. We'll see what happens with the rest of that stuff. Anton Voorhees in the chat. Thank you for the vote of confidence, Anton. I really do appreciate it. We will be back, and I will do all I can to make it better than ever. And we'll be back with a way for listeners to support the show if you choose. I will also say this before any like Patreon launches or anything like that. I do maintain to keep the core LGBT in the Ring show, the interview show that we do, that you've listened to for the past 3.5 years. That will always be free. That will not be paywalled behind any kind of Patreon subscription or anything like that. Bonus shows maybe. There might be some other stuff that might be there, but the core show that you've all enjoyed and have supported for so long, that will be always be free. Always. Yeah, so I guess that's it. I guess if y'all have any questions about what's going on with the show, I guess I can open that up here now. You know, we could take a little bit of time if y'all had questions. If not, I feel like I answered a lot of what's going on, but you never know. You know, I always like to open those things up there. So I'll leave a few minutes here if y'all did have any questions, and just kind of let things simmer for a minute. I don't know. I don't want to just have dead air. That's the working in college radio and stuff like that. Like, one of the first things you're taught is like no dead air, but fuck it, not in college radio anymore. We do whatever the fuck we want or something. I don't know. It's been a day. It's been a few days, but we're getting there. We're getting back over the hump. All right. I'll give it a few more minutes, but I think, like I said, I think I answered everything so far. Of course, follow the show. Follow the show on Twitter at LGBT Ring Pod. Same on Instagram at LGBT Ring Pod. Follow me on Twitter at WonderboyOTM. I have an Instagram, but I don't think I've ever posted a picture on it, so I just use it for Messenger, really. So I don't know if I'm worthy of a follow for that. It's just boring. And you know, I don't know if the other people at Outsports will still be publishing stuff up until that February 28th end date. But if they are, continue to support them, because the whole team there has been putting out a lot of interesting podcast work from a lot of different perspectives, whether it be different sports or different identities, a lot of discussions along the lines of gender, a lot of heavy discussions, especially with Carly on the Transporter Room, talking about the continued vilification and the increasing attempts to criminalize trans and gender diverse identities here in the United States, in legislatures across the country. They've done a lot of great work on that show, and Ken has been outstanding with all of his baseball coverage and his baseball podcast that hasn't really published in a while. I don't know. It's been really cool to see. Yeah. I'd say continue to download and listen to their shows throughout this last month plus, I guess month and 4 days, if they continue to publish there. But okay, I think we're gonna wrap this one up here. Thank you all again for taking the time to listen to me ramble for 30 minutes about this silly, amazing thing that I get to do. Just because SB Nation isn't going to publish the show anymore doesn't mean the show is not going to be published anymore. So LGBT In The Ring will be on hiatus for at least the next few weeks, potentially through the end of February. But we will return, most likely sometime in March, but we will return with all of the things that you've come to expect and love about the show. Also, all of you get a peek into my little office space here, because we don't really do video podcasts for the show. Who knows? That might change too. Everything is on the table when it comes to what we want to do with the show once we take it independent, in whatever form it's going to be. So who knows? Maybe we do video. I don't know if I want to take that upon myself. But if people want it, it might be a good route to go. So either way, thank you all for tuning in, and I eagerly await the next time that I am able to bring an episode of this wonderful little thing to all of you. So just keep following the socials and know that we will be back whenever we are, but we will definitely be back. This is not the end of LGBT In The Ring. It's just a new evolution of LGBT In The Ring, so to speak. So thank you again. Y'all take care. Have a safe weekend. Enjoy any wrestling events you might be going to, or in the case of some people, might be wrestling on that are in the chat. But yeah, y'all take care. And I will be letting people know as new information comes out. Hopefully we get some answers pretty soon, but until then, y'all stay messy. Y'all know the rest of the bullshit. I love all of you. Take care, have fun, and we will see you when we see you. Bye.